So right here, this is a recess. This actually has the drywall is smaller where it bumps the factory edges. And he's filling in the recess to put tape on. You have to have mud underneath that tape or that tape will not hold. Generally, you don't need more than a 6-inch to bed in or to put mud in that.
I'll show you why.
It's usually 4 inches.
There's your recess, there's your recess.
You see that? But you want to make sure you have plenty. Now he's putting the tape on. Get up there close. He's wiping that tape into the mud. Pushing it in. Gently, not hard. And you just tear it off with your knife holding in place. Now, he's wiping it down into, so it's to be, our goal is for this to be flat, or as flat as possible.
Mud shrinks, it's going to be a little bit flatter.
All right, that is a flat. The way I was taught, how about you, John? I was taught butts, flats, angles.
We done that.
You always
Butts first.
Butts, flats.
Because
a butt.
Go ahead. Here's why, because when you put your tape up here for your butt, it's in that recess, and then when you put this tape over, it's lower. And if you tape over it and it sticks up a little bit above, that's a little bit higher spot to. So we always cut it right even with the recess to the end of that.
It's generally the way to do it. Now you can change it up and do it the way you want to, but that's a good idea. Here's your butt joints where you have two cut pieces butting against each other. It's the finisher that, one of the many finishers that taught me, he didn't call them butt joints, he called them baster joints.
That's a bastard joint. That's what I call them too.
Because they don't marry to,
They don't go good.
they don't, you're gonna end up having one side higher than the other, generally. So it's usually you do your butt joints, which is two cut pieces put together. Then your flats, which is your recesses. And then your angles. And your angles are in the corner. Okay? Generally, you can do all of this with regular tape. And believe me, there's a lot of things. You're not going to learn it by watching a video. You're going to have to do it. It's not like riding a bicycle. It takes years. I tell you this. I don't know how many times I've had people that I work for said, hey, why don't you take him with you so he can learn how to do finishing? I was like, okay. He's going to learn how to finish what took me years to learn, be good at. He's going to learn it in 2 days. That makes me one dumb guy. You have to, it takes time. Forgive yourself when you make mistakes. You're going to have to pull that excess mud off. You've got to constantly clean your knife. If you watch John,
Clean knife, clean hand.
he's constantly wiping both sides of that knife. It's constantly. Pull it off. Now, if you don't, every time you put that knife on there, you're going to leave some residue. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to see it. I can hear it. I don't know about you, John. Somebody don't know what you're doing. So now he's doing the corner there. Now he's putting that mud on one side of his knife. You see that? He's pushing it over into a corner and putting it in that side so he can use it. Now that takes time to get used to your pan and your angles. You don't have to do that. You can do it full out, wide, flat. Then the corner,
The tape comes with the.
it's got a little seam in it.
Seam in it.
All you got to do is wipe it down.
All you gotta do is get it the right way. Works a whole lot better.
And he's holding it there, pushing it in. You do the same thing with your hands. He's doing it. You push it all the way in.
If you have a crack on one side or the other, that's the side you wipe down so your knife will hit against that to keep your corner straight.
You want to keep it flat as possible. That's our goal with finishing. It is not necessarily just to get mud on. It is to make it as flat as possible. That's what your goal is. And he's wiping that down. That is an angle. Now, he makes it look a little easier than it actually is. It's going to take you a while to get where you can do that. He's wiping down nails right there.
This is the wrong way to do this. That is wrong.
You can do that, but it's going to mean a lot of work. Here, if you ever have to sand, and by the way, when you first start out, you will have to sand.
Oh yeah.
You're going to have to go like this.
What you do is you put this 6 on there, and then you put another 6 on there, and it'll be the same width. Then you switch nice when you do your last coat, and you get an 8.
Yeah.
And what that 8 will do is it'll make it wider, and you can feather it off. And you do. It's just kind of like a on and off, so you don't have to sand.
And you can't tell where each one is. Now, here's the deal. In commercial, where you didn't have any texture, and you didn't want to have, if you sand this paper accidentally, when they paint it, it'll stand up with fuzz. You do not want to sand the paper. You only want to sand where the mud is.
This right here is a guy that's too short putting the screws up there.
That's a little Mexican.
He's at an angle. So then you got this click sound.
See that line?
That's the screw head.
That is, you got to get that down.
There's another one. See, he's not reaching up far. He ain't calling it reach up far.
And a lot of times, John and I talk about it all the time. See how they're pulling the screws out, thinking they're doing us a favor?
No.
They're not doing any favor.
Because you haven't done this though.
So would they be better off? They spend less energy if they just left it in and hammered it in. Because then we don't have to deal with the paper sucking out.
We always carry a screwdriver with us, a fillet to put in there, and just tap it inside the paper. Therefore, because if you take it out, there's a hole all the way through your sheetrock. And every time you put that mud in there, you push that sheetrock mud back in there a little bit further. It's always a dent. Always.
And the paper makes it stand out. And actually, if you don't push it in at all, it ends up making a bump, and then you'll have a line there.
Yeah, that's why I hit it. That's why I hit it.
That's why that 6-inch has that.
That's why that 6-inch has that hammerhead
Right there.
on it. See that little shiny metal end? That's for.
So you'll end up.
Back in the day, when they used nails, you could take this if the nail wasn't in there, and you could put a dimple in it.
Can't do that with screws easy.
You can't do it with the screws.
So,
Yeah. Even more reason why John uses nails.
John likes nails, yeah.
No, I don't like nails, but it's a pain in the butt to drag a cord around in a house and screw all of it, and you got that cord, and you ain't got no place to really put it, and you got one hand here. I can hold it with one hand, you can take a nail and stick it and hit it. You can't do that with a screw, and if it's not in where it needs to be, you ain't got enough hands and arms to hold it and push it where it needs to be.
Yeah. Well, now, a finisher generally likes screws better because it leaves less of a dimple.
Well, if you got a 6-inch knife, you got a whole lot of mud. That little bitty circle ain't no worse than that little bitty circle.
Okay, but he's been doing it a long time, so you can listen to it. His love of doing it with the nails and
Well, I thought when I started, there wasn't no screws.
no, there wasn't. And you wouldn't have even dreamed of doing that.
And there wasn't no routers.
No. You had to cut it right.
You had to reach down with your hatchet and mark beside the box, and then reach down and measure it and cut it out with your keyhole saw. That's what we did.
And you still
For the
made
first 10 or 15 years I was doing it.
and
Drywall.
you were hanging a lot of drywall.
And we was hanging as much as been hung when we got routers.
Mhm.
We'd hang 100, those 3 guys would hang 100 sheets a day without routers. And
then go jump in the lake.
well, when we got routers and stuff, me and the guy worked with him, we'd hang 100 sheets, and at noon we'd go jump in the lake. It made us a whole lot faster.
He and Al were making $25 an hour 25 years ago hanging drywall.
Yes.
Custom homes.
That was our goal.
Yeah. You have to start early in the morning before it gets hot. Get the sun.
When it gets early enough, you can see the mark. Because that's, you had to mark them with your hammer.
And you get your ceilings done first.
Yeah, oh, definitely. In summertime, you definitely. Now, in wintertime,
Not as important, but
it wasn't as important, but in the summertime when it was 100 degrees, when you get to that last room hanging the ceiling at 10 o'clock,
it's cooking.
it's 150 degrees rolling out of that attic on you.
So you get all your ceilings.
Not good.
You learn. But your ceilings are the first thing you want to hang anyway.
Yeah,
So
because your wall's all but up against them.
if you look here at this house, it hasn't been air conditioned in a long, long time. And you see, this is probably the same problem, John. It's not very much mud underneath.
Yeah, they
So-
wiped it all out when they finished.
So whenever they pushed too hard and wiped that tape flat as they could, they pushed almost all the mud out.
Yeah, well, you put too much pressure on it, wipe it down, you ain't got no mud there. There's nothing to hold it.
And your goal is to get it flat.
And then you get a little bit of humidity in the house.
It's just
It's gonna start ripping. It'll start at the butt, at the joint, at the seam, and then it'll eventually just keep going to turn place.
So it's really important, and you will know if you don't get enough mud, or if you don't get any mud underneath that tape, when you go to put more mud on it, it will blister out.
Well, when you put the mud on there, the blister will bubble to the mud.
Generally, if you're a finisher, you'll know that. But I'm telling you, it's important to get mud underneath that tape.
The only reason some of this has stayed on as good as it has, probably as long as it has, is because it's had a coat of paint over it, holding it up.
Just everything held
It was
together.
dried and up here when it couldn't fall.
So get mud underneath your tape. And then you can push out what is excess. Now, there's a lot more to learn along the way. There's a lot more. But I'm trying to help you understand what you're gonna do. So keep the mud underneath the tape, and you can have excess and wipe it off.
I'm telling you, that's good.